everyone, I've decided that I'm going to use the Call Me Crafty February 2022 sketch again. This is a card that I made using the sketch previously. So I'm going to use the same design. I'm going to use my A2 white card bases that are 5.5 by 4.25. And then I've got a grey backing panel, which is 5.25 by 4. And then I have these matting layers, which is from the card sketch. And then these are 3 1-inch strips that are 4.5 inches long, and then a strip with a sentiment, and then some kind of die cut or some kind of decoration here is what the design calls for. All of the instructions are here, including how to cut down your paper. I'll include a link to where you can find out more information in the description below. If there's anything here that I think is still available, I'll also list that in the supply list below for you. But I'm basically going to take a look at all of these pattern papers and see if I can match them up in designs of 3 that I think will work. Okay, so now that I have this mixed lot of paper strips, I have a box that has loads more of these in it. What I did is I sorted through and found the ones where they were all separate and loose. When I look at this, there's a couple of things that stand out to me and things that I want to consider when I'm matching up the papers. One is there is quite a few pattern papers here with pink, and I do like to try and create designs that are a bit more neutral. So one of my goals would be to look at the colors that I have here and see if I can use some to create a card that would be a bit more neutral. And then I will take a look at this and think, okay, there's a few of the papers on here that are specialty papers. This one has some glitter dots. This one has some foil dots on it. There's also a few papers that are pretty bold. So the hexagons here and the stripes at the top and these stars. And often with those, I like to really balance them out. So add plain colors with them. That means that they're not super bright and super busy. The other thing I notice when I look at this is there is a lot of teal, and there may be an opportunity to merge some teals together and have, you know, a card that is all in the same color tones, but has different designs and patterns behind it. So with the cross, the little check here, the diamonds, the swirls and the flowers, I'm sure I can work something out with those. So the other thing as well, of course, is this is a little bit sneaky. Somehow I've got Christmas paper in here as well. So this has got definite Christmas on the other side. And so the question I have for myself is it possible to turn something that is very, very obviously Christmas into a card that does not look so much like Christmas? Now, the other thing as well is for the ones where I only have, you know, say for this, I only have one piece. My goal would be when I'm putting the leftovers, I'm obviously not going to use all of this for this project, is to have less pattern paper designs when I go back. So I want to finish some of these. So the ones that have caught my attention first is these stripes, and can I figure out a way to add 2 other designs to make this work? The other thing that I really like is these dots here as well. Now, I don't think those would go together, so I think we're talking 2 different designs here for the moment. And what other color tones could go with it to make it work? Now, this has burgundy and green. I don't think the pink is going to work. Can I add one of these darker teals to it somehow? Now, this actually looked pretty good. Now, this is more of a bottle green and a teal, but they're not competing with each other. And that's adding, you know, just a really basic neutral. The other thing as well is it was right next to these. Do wonder if 5, now because these are 12 inches long and the paper requires 4.5, I'm gonna get 2 out of these. So this will create 10 cards. So if I have 5 other pieces, so if I do put those together, do I have 5 brown? Now these are the wrong width, obviously, so I'm gonna have to do something to fix that up. But I do think if I get creative with the decoration on my card, that I could put those 3 together and turn them into something interesting. I could even potentially put the brighter on the side. I will work that out when I get closer, but that's bundle number 1. Now, the other one I wanted to work with was this yellow. Is there anything here where the yellow will really pull? See, it competes with the hexagons. I really don't want to do dots and dots. Could it go with the bright colored stripes? Possibly. I don't think it goes with the stars. I honestly think that even just those together looks pretty cool. So I had a couple other pieces of pattern paper. I think that actually works. There we go, improvising. This is bundle number 2. So for the next one, I think I'm gonna go with this pattern paper because I can immediately see that this matches quite well, this specialty paper. And then I can add a couple of the teal pieces. I did say I was gonna try and use get rid of an entire pile. Do I think the sideways diamonds work? I think the color match is good. I'm gonna go with that. That's bundle 3. I'm thinking if these stripes, these do have the pink and mulberry kind of color on it. So if I take 2 of these, and then because it's the stripes and the dots, so I've got the check with the teal and the pink. So this matches here, this matches here. So I think that'll work. That's set number 4. If I go, does this pink work? It actually does. It's not a perfect match for here, but because there's small dot, which you probably can't see, because there's small dots on it, it's the right color family, which means that's actually working quite well. Then the question is, could I be bold enough to put some flowers with it? And then that uses up the flower paper. That still leaves me 3 teals that can go together if I want to do teal design. Okay, that's design 5. So if I can work out how to use these up, I think that would be great. So maybe I've got the hex again, so there's 3. So I use 3 of these. And then I really think, you know, just teal. I mean, that swirly teal's pretty busy. I'm going to gravitate towards this one over here. Again, this is a bit lighter. This is a dark teal, so I'm going to stick with this. Okay, that's a bundle. I mean, this here is interesting. This is again Christmas. And I could probably get away with, they actually look really cool. All right, how many of these are there? And how wide is this? Not quite 2 inches. All right, so 3. And then I think this one looks pretty cool with the swirls. Let's just check this out, see if this is working. I'm gonna try it, and if I don't like it, so be it. Okay, so I have my bundles. I'm gonna do 2 cards that look like this. I've got 6 cards with this really unusual combination. I'm gonna see if I can make this work. There'll be another 6 cards with the hexagons, another 6 with the dots, another 6 with the stripes, another 6 with the flowers, another 10 with the Christmas stripe, and another 2. So we've got, my gosh, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 16, 18, 20, 30. If my calculations are correct, I'm going to create 30 cards. This is why my videos always have so many cards in them, because I have so much pattern paper and I try and use it. And then before I know it, I'm not creating 10 cards, I'm creating 30 cards. All right, I'm going to chop everything up. I'm going to mount it on my panels. I have a bunch of them pre-done. It probably won't be enough now that there's 30. My card bases are done. I have my grey backing panels. I'm going to run through and do all of that quite quickly. And then I just need to do my sentiment and work out what I'm going to do as some kind of die cut or something that I can use for the card design. Okay, so now that everything's chopped up, the next step is to prep the panels. Because there's so many panels, I really think that liquid glue would be a bit of a pain and messy and possibly have the edges of the paper stick up. So instead, I am running through with my double-sided tape. This is 3/4 of an inch, so I can run it straight down the middle, rip it off. Doesn't need to be tidy. I'm not using scissors or making it perfect. I'm literally just running it down the paper. Every now and then I snag a little scrap, but that's okay. So I'm gonna run through and I'm gonna do all of these. So here I'm adding all of the colored strips to the white base layer. This is just a matter of adding the 2 strips to the outside and then adding the one in the middle last. This just allows the creation of an even border or even white space through the middle. It's really quite straightforward to line up if you're a little bit careful with it. Okay, so I managed to find a bunch of flowers that I had stamped quite a while ago and not used. These have been sitting on my desk in a little box for a really long time. been trying to find a project where I can use them. I've laid them all out to the side of my craft mat and worked out which ones match from a color perspective. I haven't identified flowers for these ones. I could add red flowers to here in particular, but because I think that has a more of a neutral color palette and there's 10 cards there, I'm going to leave that separate. I'm going to get all of these cards to the point where they're almost completed. I'm also going to use some foam dots behind here. I don't have very many left, but I do have a few. And so I think this would be a really good chance to use them. Popping these flowers up, I think would look pretty nice. And I just use my VersaFine Onyx Black ink and a stamping block. I find that way quicker than trying to use a Misty, especially when doing sentiments. And if I happen to mark up a few or they're a little bit imbalanced and I splodge with the ink, I just put them aside or flip them over and stamp again on the other side. So I do find this to be a pretty quick process. I'm then just adding some double-sided tape to the back of the sentiments. I'm using here 6mm width double-sided tape, and it's perfect for the sentiment strip. Just running through and adding them all to the back and then putting them on top of the card panels. I do end up with a few extras and I'll put those in my stash for another project, but I generally try not to create too many leftovers because then I find myself having to figure out a way to use those again. Now that all the card panels are ready to go, I'm just lining up the sentiment, making sure it's nice and straight using my grid mat. I'm then adding on the flowers. So I have 2 flowers on each of the panels. I've got the larger one, which I'm attaching first. I'm just going to use some liquid glue on those. Once I've attached them, I'll then add some foam squares to the smaller flower. That just means where it overlaps the bigger flower, it's able just to pop up a little bit. It just adds a little bit of contrast and interest, because it creates almost a little bit of a shadow around the second flower. And when you attach it to the broader panel, it just adds that little bit of depth. Okay, now that I've completed all of the panels, it's literally just a matter of attaching all of the panels onto the card base with the grey. And even though these overlap a little bit and fall off the edge, there's still plenty of space, so there's no need to trim them down. Some of them hang over a little bit more than others, and I really wasn't worried about it because I knew I had about 1/2 inch on the side where it still works just fine. So I'm going to run through and attach all of these to the backing panels. So here are the cards that I've made. They've worked out really well, and I'm really glad that I managed to use up some of the flowers that I had sitting on my desk. I was really just waiting for the right project. And these have matched up quite well with the scrap papers that I've cut into strips. So this is 24, and a reminder that I do have 10 base panels and 6 base panels to be able to add to my stash to create some further cards down the track. Hope you enjoyed the video. I've put a link here to another one I think you might enjoy. Have a great day.